Hello, gorgeous people, and welcome to another TV Central one-on-one podcast. I'm Aaron Ryan. This is episode 5, 2023, and the third of the Australian Survivor Elimination episodes. I think there is a running theme now. Who is portrayed throughout each episode as the likely one to go is never the one going. And last night's episode, that person was Stevie. It looked like his number was up, but then at Tribal Council, after a lot of whispering, it was Mimi Tang. And she's here with me now. Mimi, thank you for joining me here at TV Central.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. Well, I suppose everyone's asking us the same question. Can't start this podcast without asking about the hands in the cookie jar. Everyone wanted to do it. Everyone was thinking it. Why not just fess up and tell people rather than get caught up in suspicion?
I personally feel like I was pretty honest. So you wouldn't know this, but I actually told Liz that I was going to reach my hand in the cookie jar before I did it. And then I knew she would have told Shonny, which I didn't have an issue with. And then eventually I knew, obviously, the boys would know. So that's why I didn't feel like I needed to confess. But also in Tribal, I wanted to preserve that relationship had I gone back into the game. So I want to confront her individually rather than a bit more publicly at Tribal. So that's where my head was at with that.
Well, speaking of the cookies, in the ordinary world, a jar of cookies might not seem the best prize in the world, but in Survivor, when the villains won, it must be gold, a sugar fix when you're starving.
It was. I mean, we didn't eat for 3-4 days, and that was the first bit of our food. So it was amazing. It was a sugar rush. It was delicious, although it was also partially coconut flavored. So I think by that point we were already a little bit over the coconuts.
So let's talk Stevie. I mean, he was definitely on the way out. Well, at least with some discussions that we saw on air. What do you think changed? From the editing, it seemed like your reference about the cookie jar and Tribal Council changed things.
I actually don't think it was the cookie jar. I think it definitely was part of it, but I think from what I saw, it was more so Shonny not being happy with my attitude towards Stevie, which I was a little bit confused with because Stevie was trying to get her out. So not too sure on that one.
Well, you said at the end of the episode that you were surprised about being voted out. Did you have no indication at all that you were part of any discussions where you thought it could be you?
Oh, I absolutely thought it could partially be me, but I think I had an 1 in 3 chance. I knew that the vote would either be myself, Stevie, or George. It just, so happened to be me. And I definitely saw in that Tribal Council, it changed a few times. So going in, I think it was probably somebody else, but then it left with me.
Well, in episode 2, where you won the rewards challenge, you were able to do whatever you want in the heroes camp, and you were quite emphatic about just taking what you need and leaving without being, I guess, malicious. You are a villain, right? Why the integrity path with this reward?
Some villains have integrity. And,
Of course.
sometimes that helps. And, a lot of villains are misunderstood as well. But what my thought was there was that you saw that I wanted to have a little bit of fun. Absolutely. What a great reward. But don't go overboard. There's a line that you don't cross, and especially not this early in the game.
Sean, Sammy, Dave, and Matt are creating a little alliance. I think some are calling them a meat tray. Is it a good move creating a circle within the circle?
We love the meat tray reference. I think that killed me when I listened to that. I mean, there's always circles within a circle. That's the game. Your alliances change all the time, and you need to make sure that you have your fingers in a lot of different pies. So,
or cookie jars.
Or cookie jars. Absolutely, cookie jars.
The immunity challenges have been 0 wins so far for the villains. I have my theory as why the team are not winning, but this last episode, the villains were miles behind. What do you think, the issue is with the immunity challenges?
It's for sure our teamwork, because we're winning challenges, but individual challenges. So we're really good strategically individually. We know who to pin against who to win whatever we're up against. However, just as a team, we're not collaborative, we're not coherent. The communication isn't there. And I think it's a little bit of a connection within the different alliances. So we have multiple different alliances within our tribe. So you have Liz and Shonny, you have Geordie and Simon, and then you have them four together. And then everybody else is kind of scattered a little bit around, trying to survive as best as they can. So I think that is, that pays tribute to how we work in a challenge.
Yeah, that was for me. It was definitely the team, team not being cohesive together. Um, you've seen the episode now in which you leave that aired last night. You now know that Simon and George have an immunity idol. Now that you think back to your time, were there any indications that they were the hiding one?
Does Simon have an immunity idol? Let's see. They look very different to each other.
Yes, or whatever it is. But was there any indications, like from you, that either one of them were hiding something? When you think back, was there any suspicions?
Definitely. I mean, Simon, yes, but George, no. George played it very, very well. I had no idea that he had found something. But Simon, yes, there was definitely a couple of signs. I also saw Geordie, I think, smack him on the ass trying to feel whatever was in his pants. So I found that a bit odd. Not that they didn't have the bromance, but it was just the timing and how they did it. So yeah, those were my suspicions.
It's interesting what you said about whatever it is. So, not an immunity idol? What are you thinking?
Well, it just looks completely different to George's. And George's looks very much like a traditional idol. You know, you've got the
Mm.
chain, you've got the feathers and whatever's around it. But Simon's is very plain. So whatever that might be, I don't know.
All right. Um, is it a little bit bittersweet that for Simon finding whatever he found then was actually in the jar, the one that you actually went through and couldn't find anything?
Oh, that absolutely killed me. I feel like an arrow went through my heart. I, sacrificed myself to try and find something and to find out that somebody else actually found it and also with no effort. That absolutely killed me.
Going in a different direction, Anjali and Michael have been quite vocal since they left in their podcast. Do you think it was right decision to vote them out, or the old hindsight game? Would you have done things differently, knowing what you know now?
I mean, I don't think there's ever a right or wrong when you vote somebody out. There's so many different variables. You just don't know. It's just the decision that gets made within that time. I definitely personally wanted to keep Angeli. If you actually go back and watch that episode, I didn't actually put my hand up. So I was trying to keep her in the game, but then at the end of the tribal, we had to be unanimous, and it's not like I was going to go against 10 other people. So yeah, it was a tough one.
All right, let's talk about King George. Now, I love him, but I just don't get it. Everyone knows that he will scheme his way to the end, and you all started correctly in episode 1 with trying to get rid of him, and then in episode 2 he was going to go home, but then everything changed, and went with Michael. Why are you all, and I'm just saying this collectively, I know there's individual decisions, but why are you all moving away from him and onto others, knowing that he's likely to scheme? I mean, he's got an immunity idol now, and he's going to scheme his way as far as possible now. Why wasn't he taken out?
I think that's just part of George's charm. So you could vote him out or you could keep him for a long time. I think I think the fact that the vote diverted from him is because people realized they could use him in certain ways. So for instance, you saw Shonny align with him. She had a purpose for him. Most of the time when people keep him in, they have purposes for him. But then that's
Mm.
why he gets so far. And because he is a good player, he is strategic. I think people don't count on him having big numbers. He's always an extra number, but he can always also sway that vote whichever way that he wants it to be personally himself.
Yeah. When episode 3 starts, it says on screen it's actually day 6. So we are seeing, with the 3 episodes, 3 hours out of 144 hours that you've been on the island. What can you tell me about what we're not seeing on the show?
Um, what you're not seeing, I mean, yeah, you're not seeing a lot of the day. You're seeing a very small snippet. You're not seeing all the interactions that you're getting. So, for instance, like myself, the audience didn't really see my relationship with Fraser, which I had. The audience really didn't see my relationship with George, that I had very much so as well, until he stood up for me that one time. Yeah, there's a lot you don't see.
All right, so out of the villains left, who would you like to see go the furthest?
Oh, that is a tough question. Really have to think about that one. Who would you see first?
Um, that it is difficult putting me on the spot. I mean, in some way, I'd like to see George go as far as possible. I mean, I don't think he'll win, when you start getting the heroes come in, but I just think if he's going to play the game the way he's playing it and people are going to react in the way that they're reacting, then he probably deserves to go as far as possible. He's an interesting fella.
Yes, he's very quirky. I mean, I have reasons for a few of them. I think Geordie has a really good chance because of who he is as a person and what he's learned through his previous game. But then I also think, Shawnee's got the most experience. She's been on the game of Survivor for the longest time out of anybody. But yeah, I would definitely like to see a villain win and maybe even a newbie.
Yeah. Just last question. You work in a very male-dominated environment with your current job. I read in your bio that you think that would help you in Survivor. Do you think it did actually help you in the end, or did you underestimate, I guess, the backstabbing and the scheming components?
I mean, I don't underestimate anything. I've learnt that through my line of work and what I've experienced. So you should never underestimate anyone or anything. Um, yeah, I think I was quite prepared for what I was hit in the face with, but unfortunately, I just couldn't swim above water.
Well, Mimi, you played a great game. I think you mix being a villain with being a bit of a hero as well. Just a lovely person and showing a lot of integrity as well, being a villain. Yeah, great player. Thank you for joining me here at TV Central.
Thank you so much for having me.
Mimi Tang, third eliminated from Australian Survivor. Australian Survivor, 7:30 Sunday, Monday and Tuesday next week on 10 and 10 Play. TV Central will be talking to every eliminated contestant. There will be a podcast available around lunchtime the day after an elimination. That's it for this podcast. For all the latest news, podcasts, streaming info, guides and ratings, head to tvcentral.com.au. Until next time, I'm Aaron Ryan. Thanks to Mimi Tang. Bye for now.